Okay, guys, I want you to picture this. You're lost in a frozen forest, snow is swallowing your boots, and the cold is clawing at your bones. You have a flashlight, but it starts flickering, and it's barely cutting into the dark. The only sound is your crunching steps until it's not. A stench hits, rotting flesh thick and wrong. Then you hear a voice, jagged and inhuman, hissing through the trees. I'm hungry. That's when your heart begins pounding. Something's out there, and it's starving for you. What's worse than freezing alone, you might ask? And that's when I'll tell you that meeting the creature that's hunting you down is way worse. Okay, welcome back, listeners and watchers, to another crazy episode of Relative Perspective Paranormal Confessions. I'm your host, Steven, and tonight we're diving into the darkest corners of the unknown. If you're a new listener here, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss anything. But tonight, you better strap in. These stories will make you want to lock every door in your house. And if you're a returning guest, you know the drill. Go ahead and hit the like button, but hit it gently because you might be summoning something nasty. Today, we're tackling the Wendigo, a curse from the Algonquin legends. It's not just a monster. It's what happens when hunger breaks a man's soul. We'll explore its origins, why it's nightmare fuel, and 6 real encounters from 1636 all the way up to 2012 that proves it's no myth. I'm going to do my best to honor the Algonquin nation for sharing these warnings. Now, these tales are woven with wisdom to protect their people. So grab a blanket, lock the doors, and let's step into the void. This one's going to haunt your nightmares. Okay, let's set the stage. It's the 1600s, and you're living with the Algonquin peoples, spread across the vast icy wilderness from Quebec's rocky shores to Minnesota's frozen plains. This is a world where winter isn't just a season, it's a predator. The snow can bury villages, rivers can turn to ice, and the air can be so cold that it feels like it's clawing at your lungs. Survival here depends on community, sharing food, stories, and warmth. But when the famine hits, when the deer disappear and the fish won't bite, that bond gets tested. And that's where the Wendigo joins our story. The name Wendigo hits like a curse. It's rooted in Proto-Algonquin, possibly tied to the word Wenti-koa, which some linguists link to the word owl. You know, that night hunter with a cry that sounds like a warning from the grave. The Algonquin didn't see the Wendigo as just a monster. It was a judgment and a consequence. Picture a hunter starving, his family fading away. He's got no food, no hope, and he makes a choice. He decides to eat human flesh. Maybe it's to survive, maybe it's greed, but that act, it's a betrayal of everything his people stand for. And the moment that blood touches his lips, something snaps. The transformation is grotesque, straight out of a nightmare. His skin turns gray, splitting like old parchment over bones that sharpen like blades. His eyes sink into his skull, glowing like dying embers. His teeth grow jagged, slick with old blood. He gets tall, some say maybe 15 feet, and others say even bigger. This skinny frame is gaunt, but impossibly strong, with claws that can disembowel you with one swipe. But the worst part, his hunger doesn't stop. It grows like a fire that eats everything and still demands more. He's not human anymore. He's a Wendigo, cursed to stalk the wilderness, forever starving and forever hunting for human flesh. The Algonquin wove this story into their oral traditions, passed down by elders around a flickering fire. It wasn't just to scare kids, it was a moral code. Cannibalism wasn't just wrong, it was the ultimate sin, shattering the trust that held communities together. Some tales called the Wendigo a spirit, slipping into your dreams, whispering until your will crumbled and your mind split. Others described it as a physical beast, its footsteps silent despite its size. Its senses so sharp, it could smell your fear from miles away. In some stories, it had a heart of ice, only destroyed by a shaman's sacred fire. In others, it could summon blizzards, trapping you while it closed in. The earliest written record comes from 1636 in Paul Lejeune's Jesuit Relations. Lejeune, a French missionary, was living with the Algonquin near Quebec when a woman told him about the Wendigo. The creature had devastated her people. Her story was so vivid, so terrifying, that Lejeune, who dismissed most Native American beliefs as superstition, wrote it down with a shaky hand. But this wasn't new. The Wendigo was ancient, etched in the Algonquin oral history long before the Europeans Europeans showed up. Current elders, like a guy by the name of Basil Johnson, an Ojibwe scholar, later described it as gaunt to the point of emaciation, its eyes pushed back deep into their sockets, burning with a fire that never dies. The Wendigo was winter's personification of evil, tied to isolation, to those moments when you're so alone, so desperate, you'd do anything to survive. Some communities believed even speaking its name could summon it, a taboo broken only to teach or to warn. Others spoke of the Wendigo fever, a madness where victims smelled decay, saw blood in the snow, and fled into the wilderness, never to be seen again. These stories were to shield, a way to keep people from crossing that line. But as we're about to see, that line got crossed over and over. Okay, let's keep heading down this path and talk about why the Wendigo isn't just scary. It's the kind of thing that makes you want to sleep with the lights on. I mean, monsters are one thing, but this is next level terror. Let's start with what it looks like, because this thing is definitely a walking horror show. Picture a creature towering over the pines, 15 feet tall, maybe even more, but it's so skinny, its ribs are practically stabbing through its skin. Its flesh is gray and nasty, splitting like decayed paper, clinging to a spine that twists like it's trying to escape. Its face is another story. It's a skull with lips gnawed to bloody tatters because its hunger was so strong that it ate them. Its teeth like broken daggers, dripping with thick blood from its last kill. Its eyes are the worst. They're sunken, burning like red-hot coals, staring into your soul like it knows every secret you've ever kept. Its claws are long, hooked, and twitchy like they're alive with hunger, and some stories mention a blue serpentine tongue that flicks out, tasting your fear like it's savoring a meal. But the Wendigo's appearance is just the start. What makes it truly horrifying is where it comes from. This thing was actually human once. That's the knife in the gut. This isn't some alien or demon from another realm. It could be your neighbor, your friend, or even you, or maybe even your wife. The Algonquin believed that eating human flesh, whether out of starvation or greed, was a betrayal so profound it warped your very soul. The idea that desperation could strip away your humanity, leaving this ravenous, twisted thing that burrows deep. Even thinking about cannibalism could invite the Wendigo's spirit, so every hungry night was a battle to stay human. Its powers cranked the terror up to 11. This thing doesn't just hunt, it invades. It can slip into your mind, its voice like a devilish whisper, feed. You're starving until you're not sure what's you and what's it. It's a force of nature summoning blizzards to trap you. Its footsteps silent despite its size. It smells your panic from miles away, moves faster than the wind, and some say it can mimic voices calling out like someone you love to lure you into the dark. Fighting it, good luck. They only say that shamans armed with sacred herbs, fire, and songs passed down for generations might stand a chance, but the cost is steep. Sometimes it takes your own sanity. Then there's a psychological horror, and this is where it gets really messed up. The Algonquin spoke of Wendigo psychosis, a real condition anthropologists documented. In extreme isolation and starvation, people would start obsessing over human flesh. They'd smell decay, see their friends as prey, and lose themselves to a hunger they couldn't explain. Some would run into the woods screaming about blood, never to be seen again. This wasn't just a folklore, it was a lived nightmare, a descent into madness where you became the monster. Modern psychologists compare it to dissociative disorder, but the Algonquin saw it as possession, a sign that the Wendigo had claimed you. What makes the Wendigo stand out, even among other cultural monsters? Is it intimacy? Vampires and werewolves are external threats, but the Wendigo is personal. It's the darkness that's inside you, the part that whispers when you're at your breaking point. Other cultures have similar stories, like the Norse Draugr or the Slavic Leshy, but the Wendigo's ties to human choice, to the betrayal of community, hits harder. It's a reminder that the scariest monsters aren't out there, they're in us, waiting for the moment we crack. And the stories we're about to dive into, they show that fear coming to life in ways that'll haunt you long after this episode is over. Alright folks, this is where things get seriously dark. We're about to tear open the veil between myth and reality with a few true historically documented encounters with the Wendigo, spanning from the 17th to the 21st century. These aren't just creepy stories, they're accounts from real people who faced something they couldn't explain. And these stories might make you rethink that camping trip that you've been planning. Each one's packed with details that'll pull you into the horror, so hold tight, this is going to be intense. It's winter in 1636, and the Algonquin lands near Quebec are a frozen wasteland. Snow's piled higher than a man's head, and the St. Lawrence River is locked in ice, and the wind howls like it's mourning something. In a small village, maybe 30 souls, the people are on their last legs. The deer are gone, the fish won't bite, and their fires are slowly flickering out. Paul Lejeune, a Jesuit missionary with a quill and a Bible, is staying with them. One night, a woman named Kisagu pulls him aside. Her face is gaunt, her eyes are wide with fear, and her voice shakes as she tells him about the Wendigo, a devouring spirit that's tearing her people apart. It started about a month ago with a hunter named Nikon, a quiet man who always brought back game. He went out into the storm chasing a deer and didn't come back. The village was starving, their bellies hollow when Nikon, or something that took him over, returned. He stumbled into the village at dusk, his parka torn, his face was wrong. His skin was stretched tight over his bones like it was shrinking, and his eyes glowed faintly like embers in a dead fire. He didn't speak, just stared, and his breath was reeking of rot like a carcass left in the sun. The elders whispered among themselves, but no one said the word that they were all thinking: Wendigo. That night, a scream shattered the silence. A girl, maybe 7, was gone from her bed. Her mother found the blankets empty, the snow outside streaked with blood, leading into the trees. By morning, another child went missing, a young boy who'd been tending the fire. His lodge was torn open, claw marks raking the wooden walls deep and jagged, like something had ripped through with knives. Kisagu told Lejeune that she saw Nikon in the forest, standing among the pines, his mouth dripping with red blood, and a half-eaten arm clutched in his claw. His eyes locked on hers, and she swore she heard a voice in her head saying, "You're next." The village was paralyzed. The shaman, an old man named Opichi, burned sacred herbs to banish the spirit. The air grew heavier, the cold sharper, like the forest itself was fighting back. Every night, Nikon, or the thing that he had become, returned. His growls shook the pines, low and hungry, and shadows moved where no man stood. One survivor, a boy hiding in a lodge, later said he saw Nikon's silhouette against the moon, impossibly tall. His limbs were way too long, his head tilted like a predator. The village tried to fight, setting traps, but arrows bounced off his skin and spears snapped like twigs. After a week, the survivors fled, dragging what little they had with them. Kisagu told Lejeune they saw tracks following them, too long, too deep, with claw marks gouging the snow. Lejeune wrote of a shadow on the ridge, taller than any man, watching as the village emptied out. The Algonquin never returned, abandoning their homes to the cold element. Kisagu's story became a warning passed down through generations. Speak not of the Wendigo, or it could claim you. Lejeune's account, buried in Jesuit relations, is one of the earliest written traces of the legend, but the Algonquin knew this terror long before. Our next true encounter starts on December 1878 in Alberta's Athabasca region, and winter has turned the world to ice. Swift Runner, a Cree trapper known for his strength and easy laugh, stumbles into a trading post near Fort Saskatchewan. He's gaunt, his parka hanging off him like it's too big, and his eyes dart like a cornered animal's. He tells the traders his wife Charlotte and their 6 kids starved in the wilderness miles from help. The traders pity him, offering food, but something's off. His hands are trembling, and he smells like a slaughterhouse. And for a guy who's supposedly been starving, he's not as thin as you'd expect. The post manager, a grizzled man named McTavish, gets really suspicious. Swift Runner's story just doesn't add up. He's vague about where his camp was, and his eyes would avoid contact. McTavish alerts the Northwest Mounted Police, who trek out to investigate. What they find is a nightmare. The camp is a graveyard in the snow. Bones were piled up high, and some were boiled in rusted pots. Others were chewed raw. Charlotte's skull is split open, her hair matted with blood. The kids' remains were worse. Tiny ribs cracked, hearts torn out, and one small hand still clutching a rag doll. Swift Runner breaks down under questioning. His confession was chilling. He says voices haunted his dreams, urging him to kill and to feed. It started with his youngest son Samuel, only 4. Swift Runner lured him outside, promising a game, then he silenced his screams. The hunger didn't stop there. It grew, demanding more. He killed Charlotte next, then the others, one by one, eating until the snow was red. The police were horrified, but the Cree elders at the post aren't surprised. They called it Wendigo possession. Swift Runner's soul was gone, replaced by something cold and hungry. The court records show that he was tried and hanged in 1879. This was actually one of Canada's first executions. But here's the creepy part. At the gallows, Swift Runner laughed, his voice deep and wrong, like it came from somewhere else. He said, "It's not over. The hunger will find you." The traders burned his camp, scattering the ashes, but the area became cursed. Hunters avoided it, swearing they heard growls in the wind. They saw red stains in the snow that couldn't be explained. Cree oral histories recorded decades later say Swift Runner's spirit lingered, a warning of what happens when you cross that line. Even today, ex-posts from Alberta locals mention uneasy feelings near that site, like something's still watching and still waiting. Okay, our next true encounter starts in 1907 near Sandy Lake, Ontario, a remote Ojibwe community surrounded by a dense forest. Jack Fiddler, a respected shaman in his 60s, is known for his power. People say that he can speak to spirits, heal the sick, and face things most won't name. But now he's in chains, facing a murder charge. He killed his sister-in-law, a woman named Wasakapikwe, and he's not denying it. He says she was becoming a Wendigo, and he had no choice. Oral histories passed down by Jack's family leaves a grim picture. Wasakapikwe was a kind woman, a mother, but that winter she changed. She stopped eating, her skin grew pale, and her eyes started glowing faintly like fireflies in the dark. She'd sit by the fire whispering about blood, her voice low and strange. Kids in the village were terrified. They saw her lurking near the woods at night, her breath steaming in the cold. Her shadow was way too tall. Jack's son, Joseph, told police the whole community was on edge. They found claw marks on trees, deep and jagged, and a dog was found gutted, its heart missing, and its fur was matted with blood. Jack tried to save her. He burned cedar and sage, chanting Ojibwe prayers, and his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. He gave her medicines, but she grew worse. Her nails began sharpening, and her teeth bared like wolves. One night she attacked him, her nails tearing into his arm, and her voice was like a growl, saying, "Feed." Jack struck her down with a hatchet, weeping as she fell. He told the village the Wendigo was inside her, and if he hadn't acted, it would have spread. The Canadian authorities, mostly white men who didn't understand Ojibwe ways, called it superstition. They arrested Jack and Joseph, hauling them to trial. But here's where it gets wild. Jack escaped custody, slipping into the forest like a ghost. Some say he went to face the Wendigo alone, armed only with his chants and a sacred bundle of herbs. His voice echoed through the trees until dawn, then silence. His body was never found. After that, the village stopped hearing screams, and the claw marks faded. But elders swore the air felt heavy, like the Wendigo was still out there, waiting. Joseph was released years later, and he said his father's sacrifice saved them, but at what cost? Ex-posts from Sandy Lake descendants even today honor Jack as a hero who faced the darkness for his people. Okay, let's talk about some more current encounters that some whisper could be the Wendigo. On July 30th of 2008, near Portage-la-Prairie, Manitoba, where the Trans-Canadian Highway stretches through the prairie, Tim McLean, a 22-year-old carnival worker from Winnipeg, slumps against the windows of a Greyhound bus. His headphones were blaring, unaware of the horror that was closing in. Beside him sits Vince Lee, a 40-year-old Chinese immigrant. His eyes were darting, hands twitching, clutching a crumpled Bible. At 8:30 that night, under dim bus lights, Lee suddenly pulls a 14-inch hunting knife and plunges it into McLean's chest. Screams erupt as he stabs him over 40 times, blood soaking the seats. Passengers scramble off, the driver slamming the brakes, but Lee doesn't stop. He beheads McLean, holds the severed head aloft, and begins eating his flesh. All the while, his face was blank, as if possessed. The police finally get there and they surround the bus, arresting Lee after a 5-hour standoff. He mutters about God's orders, claiming McLean was a demonic force. Later, Lee, diagnosed with schizophrenia, was deemed not criminally responsible and was committed to a psychiatric hospital. Yet, Manitoba's Cree elders whisper of the Wendigo, a ravenous spirit that seizes the desperate, twisting them into cannibals. Lee's sudden violence, his voices, the unnatural hunger, could the Wendigo have claimed him on that lonely road? A 2009 Winnipeg Free Press article quotes a local farmer. That stretch of road felt alive like the land was hungry. Tim's mother Carol still mourns, haunted by a tragedy no verdict can unravel. Locals avoid that route at night, swearing the wind carries a low, ravenous moan. Okay, here's our last encounter. It happens on May 26th of 2012 in Miami, Florida. It's a scorching day. The MacArthur Causeway was humming with cars and the palm trees were swaying in the heat. But under a bridge, something's unraveling. Rudy Eugene, 31, is walking, his clothes gone and his mind fraying. Friends say he had been struggling, divorced, broke, and sleeping in his car, ranting about the Bible like it was his lifeline. That morning, he'd been erratic, his eyes wild, his voice was jagged. By noon, he's naked, staggering toward a man by the name of Ronald Papo, a 65-year-old homeless man sleeping in the bridge's shadow. Papo's story is one of tragedy and hardship, his life worn down by decades of the streets. But nothing compares to what is about to happen. He's got a scruffy beard, a tattered blanket, and no clue what's coming. Surveillance cameras catch the moment. Eugene's shadow falls over Papo and then chaos. Eugene attacks, pinning Papo down, tearing into his face with his teeth. He bites through his nose, eyes, forehead, and ripping flesh and bone, his hands clawing like a beast. For 18 minutes, it's a nightmare. Papo's screams fade to moans, his face a bloody ruin, while Eugene growls low and guttural like something not human.
The guy was like tearing him to pieces with his mouth. So I told him, get off, it's like, and the guy just kept eating the other guy away, like ripping his skin.
Larry Vega was able to wave down a police officer.
Police officer came over, told him several times to get off, and the police officer climbed over the divider and got in front of him and said, get off. He told him several times, and the guy just stood his head up like that with a piece of flesh in his mouth and growled.
Officer Jose Rivera pulls up, shouting for Eugene to stop, but Eugene doesn't even flinch. His mouth was dripping red, his eyes burning with something beyond madness. Rivera fires once and then again until Eugene collapses dead. Papo, still alive, is rushed to Jackson Memorial Hospital, his face a patchwork of scars. He whispers to the nurse that man wasn't himself, that something had to have taken him over. The media goes wild, blaming bath salts, a drug known for turning people feral. But the toxicology finds only marijuana in Eugene's blood. No drugs to explain the frenzy. Posts from 2012, especially from Miami locals, float darker theories. Was this Wendigo psychosis a modern echo of an ancient curse? The Algonquin warned that the Wendigo finds you when you're broken, slipping into minds frayed by despair. Eugene's life was a crucible. Poverty, loss, isolation. Did something older, hungrier take hold? Now, Papo's survival is a miracle, but his words haunt. He looked at me like I wasn't human, like I was a piece of meat. The police report note Eugene's body twitched after he fell, like it was fighting an unseen force. Ex-users in Miami, posting weeks later, reported a rotting smell near the causeway and shadows moving under bridges at night. One anonymous post claimed a dream voice, thin and jagged, saying that you're next. The Ojibwe might nod, recognizing the signs. Speaking of the Wendigo, invites it. Papo, now blind, carries the scars, but no hate. Miami's concrete jungle is far from the frozen pines, but hunger takes many forms. Hunger for hope and for meaning. The causeway is quiet now, but the story lingers as a warning that the Wendigo's reach isn't bound by wilderness. Okay, folks, we've survived the Wendigo's frozen grip for now. Now, I don't know about you, but I am definitely double-checking my locks tonight. Is the Wendigo still stalking the northern pines, its eyes glowing through the blizzard? Or is it closer, whispering in the shadows of our own desperation? Maybe it's out there. Maybe it's waiting for the moment we crack. Either way, I'm not camping anytime soon. Now I want to hear your confessions. Ever felt a presence in the woods? Have you heard a voice that didn't belong? Maybe your grandparents warned you about the hungry shadows. Drop your story in the comments below. And trust me, we do our best to read every one. You can also email us at relativeperspective76@gmail.com. Go check us out on all other social media platforms. The links will be down below in the description. Your confession might just haunt one of our future episodes. And let's be real, we're all a little addicted to these chills. Okay, please do me a favor and gently tap down on that like button. And like I said before, if you're new here, hit the subscribe and ring that bell so you don't miss what's coming. Speaking of next time, we're diving into something older, creepier, and straight out of the void. A mystery that will make your skin crawl. I'll give you a hint, it's not human, and it's been watching longer than you think. Until then, keep your fires burning, your doors bolted, and whatever you do, don't answer the whispers in the dark. Stay human or the hunger wins. This has been Relative Perspective Paranormal Confessions. I'm Steven, and I'll see you in the shadows. Thanks for watching. God bless you. We love you, and good night. We did it again. Done. Over.